By the time the first serious snow arrives, the village already knows what it means. In the cities, winter is a season. Here, it is a border. It does not simply cover the ground. It closes the road, erases the path, buries the fields, silences the riverbanks, and turns every ridge into a wall. One storm is inconvenience. 2 storms are warning. But when the 3rd and 4th settle into the mountain, and the wind begins to harden the drifts into something almost architectural, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. The village is no longer a village connected to the world beyond it. It is an island, surrounded not by water, but by snow. From above, the place looks as if it has been swallowed whole. Roofs are reduced to angles beneath white weight. Lanes between houses narrow into trenches. The footpath that once wound down toward the valley disappears completely, absorbed into a smooth, deceptive surface where one wrong step can send a body sliding into buried stone, frozen streams, or deep hollows carved by the wind. The map is still there, but only in memory. Children learn it first as geography. Adults relearn it each winter as survival. Long before the passes close, the village begins preparing for its disappearance. Winter here is not a surprise, and yet every year it must be treated as if it could be worse than the last. Firewood is stacked not in neat decorative piles, but in calculations. Grain is dried and sealed. Root vegetables are sorted, trimmed, and tucked into dark storage. Meat is salted, smoked, or rendered into forms that can survive the cold without spoiling. Fodder is pulled together for the animals because when the village becomes an island, the animals are trapped here too, and they eat before dawn, whether the weather is merciful or not. This is the part outsiders rarely understand. Isolation does not begin when the snow falls. It begins months earlier, in the discipline of preparation. Every bundle of wood dragged uphill in autumn is a future night of warmth. Every sack of grain stored properly is a week of security. Every repaired boot, patched roof, sharpened blade, sealed window, and reinforced stall is an argument against disaster. Winter punishes fantasy. It exposes every corner cut in October and every careless assumption made in November. In a place like this, survival is not a reaction. It is a habit built in advance. The elders know exactly when the season turns serious, not by calendar, but by texture. The snow changes sound underfoot. The wind begins coming from a direction that means the high pass is closing. The animals grow restless in a particular way. The light shortens, not only in hours but in character, becoming flatter, colder, more absolute. There are villages where winter is beautiful. Here, beauty is only part of the truth. Winter is also management, fatigue, vigilance, and a daily conversation with limits. When the last traveler leaves before the heavy storms, everyone notices. No ceremony marks it, but eyes follow the path longer than usual. A man going down to the valley for salt. A nephew returning from relatives on the lower slope. Someone carrying a message, a tool, a promise to come back when the thaw allows it. After that, the village closes in on itself. No one says it aloud, but the mood shifts. From this point on, what is here is what there is. What has been stored is what will be eaten. What has been learned is what will be needed. Help, if it comes at all, will come too late to solve the first problem. And then the storm that seals everything arrives. It comes at night, as the worst ones do. The wind reaches the roofs first, then the shutters, then the small spaces between old boards and stone. Snow begins fine, almost polite, then thickens until the darkness itself seems to be falling. By morning, doorways must be pushed open against packed drifts. Courtyards have vanished. Fence lines have disappeared. The world beyond the outermost houses is no longer visible as landscape, only as whiteness moving through more whiteness. The village does not wake into weather. It wakes into enclosure. From that moment, life reorganizes itself. Distances that were minor in summer become serious in winter. The walk from one house to another is no longer casual. A father ties cloth over his mouth before stepping into the lane. A woman leans into the wind carrying feed in a basket clutched tight against her body. Two boys use shovels to reopen a passage that was cleared the day before and vanished again by dawn. Everything takes longer. Everything costs more effort. The simplest task acquires resistance. Morning begins with fire, always. Before water, before food, before speech becomes fully human, there is the matter of heat. Ash from the previous night is stirred carefully. Coals are searched for like treasure. Kindling that was dried months ago is placed with intention, not wastefully, because if one flame dies carelessly, another must be paid for with precious effort. The stove is not an appliance here. It is the center of winter order. Around it, clothes dry, bread warms, children gather, old hands thaw. Tools are set close enough to lose their bite of ice. In a sealed village, heat is not comfort, it is structure. Outside, the men and older boys often begin with the roofs. Snow is beautiful on houses from a distance, but a roof does not care about beauty. Weight accumulates, moisture creeps where it can. Ice forms under new layers and turns the whole load dangerous. So they climb, slowly and carefully, onto surfaces that can kill them if they rush. They push snow downward in heavy white sheets that crash into the courtyards below. They test weak boards, inspect the edges, clear vents, and listen for sounds that do not belong. Small cracks, shifting beams, a softness underfoot that could mean water got where it should not. The women's work is no less severe, only less visible to people who do not understand what winter demands. Inside the houses, food is managed with precision. Flour cannot be wasted. Dried beans are counted by habit. Cheese, rendered fat, preserved vegetables, and winter bread are portioned with the knowledge that appetite and supply do not negotiate. Water must be thawed, carried, or drawn from sources half hidden under ice. Clothes must be dried before they become dangerous. Children must be kept warm without burning through fuel too quickly. Every room becomes a balancing act between bodies, fire, air, and time. And then there are the animals, the second heartbeat of the village. Cows, goats, sheep, donkeys. Whatever the settlement keeps alive through the winter must be fed before the people think of ease. Animals are wealth, yes, but more than that, they are continuity. Milk, wool, manure, labor, future offspring, and sometimes survival itself. Reaching the stalls in a blizzard can mean cutting tunnels through drifts, or crawling through spaces half blocked by ice. A sick animal in summer is a problem. A sick animal in deep winter is a crisis that can echo all the way to spring. Children grow up differently in a season like this. Winter teaches them scale. It teaches them that the world can become smaller than they want and larger than they can control at the same time. A child who runs freely across the terraces in summer learns, in winter, to respect the edges buried under snow. They learn not to stray beyond the sound of adults. They learn how quickly wet socks become pain, how a metal latch can seize skin, how silence after a storm can be more dangerous than the storm itself. But they also learn rituals of closeness, shared meals, stories beside the stove, sleeping rooms full of breath and blankets, and old voices that make isolation feel, for a few hours each night, almost like abundance. Because that is the strange truth about a snow-sealed village. It is lonely from the outside, but intensely communal from within. Winter strips away illusion. No one here survives as an individual unit. If one roof collapses, neighbors come. If one family misjudged its grain, others stretch what they have. If someone falls ill, the whole village begins rearranging itself around that fact. Not because they are saints, but because geography has made selfishness impractical. In mild weather, People can pretend their lives belong only to themselves. In a sealed winter, every household becomes part of one organism. Still, generosity does not erase fear. Every village that endures harsh winters keeps a memory of the season that went wrong, the roof that failed in the night, the avalanche that took a path people thought they understood, the child who developed a fever when the pass was closed, the old man who walked out after a storm and did not return before dark. These memories live inside winter, even when the day is calm. People laugh, work, share meals, and keep routine. But beneath it all there is accounting. How much wood remains? How many sacks of grain? How many weeks until the first melt? How many storms can the village absorb before caution turns into scarcity? Sometimes the village is so sealed that sound itself changes. Snow swallows distance. A dog barking from the far edge of the settlement seems both near and impossibly far. Footsteps arrive muffled. Doors close with a padded heaviness. Even arguments lose some of their edge in thick weather, as if the season insists that voices can serve themselves too. But when storms pass and the sky clears, a different acoustics emerges. Then every strike of an axe, every shovel scrape, every cough in a lane sharpened by cold seems to travel forever. Winter alternates between suffocation and exposure. On the worst days, no one leaves home unless necessity forces it. The storm owns the village then. Snow moves sideways. The horizon disappears. A person stepping out from one doorway may lose sight of the next doorway 10 paces away. Lashes freeze. Beards crust white. Cloth stiffens. Even the bravest move with one hand extended, as if feeling through an invisible room. Inside, people sit closer to the stove and wait, but waiting is never passive. They mend. They spin wool. They patch harnesses. They sort beans, slice dried roots, check lamps, tell old stories, recite family histories, and listen, always listen, to what the house is saying under the pressure outside. The houses themselves are part of winter survival. Thick walls are not quaint here. They are strategy. Low ceilings are not primitive. They are warmth held lower in the room. Small windows are not aesthetic choices. They are the difference between shelter and exposure. A village that becomes an island in winter is built by memory of winter, not against it. Every feature has been argued into place by generations who watched what failed and what endured. Roof pitches, door thresholds, animal stalls joined to living spaces, storage under sleeping platforms, even the angle of a wall facing the wind. The architecture is a record of storms already survived. But winter is not only practical, it is psychological. There comes a point, usually after several weeks of closure, when the sealed-in feeling changes shape. At first, isolation is an event. Then it becomes routine. Then it becomes something deeper, almost a mood inhabiting the whole village. People begin speaking more softly. Faces stay longer at windows. Children ask how many days until the path opens. Adults stop answering in numbers. The mind begins to understand what the body already knows. For now, there is nowhere else to go. That is when the village truly becomes an island. On a real island, the boundary is visible. Water marks it clearly. Here, the boundary is invisible but absolute. Snow, avalanche danger, buried paths, wind-choked ridges, frozen streams, and distances made lethal by cold perform the same function as a sea. The world continues elsewhere. Markets, roads, noise, vehicles, strangers, news. But it may as well be on another planet. The village turns inward because it must. And in turning inward, it confronts itself more honestly than it does in any other season. Some people find peace in that contraction. Winter removes distractions. Life narrows to the essential: warmth, food, work, care, endurance. The noise of the outside world fades. There are no unnecessary errands, no casual departures, no illusion that comfort is permanent. The days become repetitive, yes, but in repetition there is clarity. Feed the animals, bring water, clear the path, tend the fire, repair the roof, share the bread, check on the old, put children to sleep. Wake and do it again. A sealed village is fragile, but it is also stripped down to meanings modern life often hides. Others feel the pressure differently. Restlessness grows. Young people especially begin to feel winter as containment rather than rhythm. They have heard of roads that remain open, stores lit late into the evening, medicine close at hand, machines that chew through snow as if the mountain were nothing. They know such places exist. That knowledge alters the experience of endurance. To survive isolation without alternatives is one thing. To survive it while imagining alternatives is another. Winter tests loyalty to place just as much as it tests the body. And yet when trouble comes, imagination vanishes and instinct returns. A child falls ill in the night. A roof beam begins to groan. A goat births too early in the cold. An old woman slips on packed snow and cannot put weight on her ankle. In those moments, no one discusses philosophy. The village moves. Someone runs for the healer. Someone else brings hot stones wrapped in cloth. Men climb the roof with lanterns. Women make broth. A neighbor brings extra fodder because the injured family cannot reach the stall easily. Winter exposes dependence, but it also reveals competence. People who seem ordinary in summer become exact and decisive in danger. This may be the most important truth of all. Isolation does not automatically produce helplessness. In villages like this, it produces memory. People know how to survive, because surviving has been repeated enough times to become a cultural reflex. They know what fever looks like when it is dangerous. They know how to ration without panic. They know how to read the slope above the last house and decide whether the snow there is merely deep or ready to move. They know the wind that closes the pass and the one that clears it. They know which silence in a blizzard means safety and which means the storm has changed direction. Toward the end of winter, everything becomes a form of waiting. The woodpile shrinking, but not too fast. The granary lowering, but not empty. The animals thinner, but alive. The children taller in their boots. The light returning by slow, almost mocking degrees. One afternoon, a roof edge drips for the first time. Then freezes again at dusk. A week later, the path near the lower wall softens. Someone says they heard water under the ice by the ravine. Nobody trusts hope immediately. Spring has betrayed this village before. A thaw can become a freeze again overnight. A softening path can vanish under one last storm. Still, something changes in how people move. They begin looking outward again. The opening of the village is never as dramatic as its ceiling. There is no single moment when the island becomes land. Instead, one section of path becomes usable. Then the slope below the shrine or the old tree sheds enough snow to reveal stone. Then someone attempts the descent to the lower valley and returns, breathless, reporting where the drifts remain, where the ice is still hard, where the mountain has shifted, where the stream cut a new edge into the track. Reconnection happens in fragments. The world does not rush back in. It leaks in. And when it does, the village looks different, even though nothing visible may have changed. The same houses stand. The same courtyards hold muddy snow. The same people move through the same lanes. But they carry, in their faces and posture, the fact that they have come through another closure intact. That matters here. Each winter survived is not just another season passed. It is proof that the system still works. That preparation mattered. That memory held. That cooperation was enough. For one more year, at least, the island did not sink. To outsiders, survival can look static. But there is nothing static about getting through a sealed winter in the mountains. It is motion disguised as endurance. Wood moved from stack to stove, water carried from source to pot, food transferred from field to storehouse to hand to body. Paths cleared, lost, and cleared again. Care passed from household to household. Knowledge pulled forward from elder to child. Even isolation itself is active here. It presses, tests, narrows, and shapes. It turns a village into an island, yes, but it also turns an ordinary season into a yearly referendum on whether the old ways still have enough strength to hold. That is why no one in the village mistakes winter for scenery. Visitors, if they ever see this place in snow, talk about beauty first. The roofs under white, the smoke against blue air, the silence, the mountains. And all of that is real, but beauty is the outer skin of the season. Underneath it is labor, memory, discipline, risk, and a kind of closeness most of the modern world only rediscovers in emergencies. Winter seals them in. It seals them with their supplies, their animals, their aging houses, their inherited knowledge, their unfinished arguments, their children, their fears, and their faith in one another. And maybe that is what makes the title true in more than one sense. When winter seals them in, this village becomes an island, geographically, cut off by snow, the way another place might be cut off by sea. But it also becomes an island in time, a place where life contracts toward older truths. That warmth is earned, that waste is dangerous, that neighbors are part of the architecture of survival, that skill matters, that preparation is love made visible, that the world can disappear for a while, and human beings can still remain human inside the silence. Then the thaw comes. Slowly, messily, without ceremony. Snow collapses inward, roofs lighten, paths reopen. Water runs where white walls stood. News returns. Traders come. Young people look down the valley again. The island dissolves back into a village connected, however imperfectly, to the world beyond the mountains. But no one here forgets what happened while it was gone, because they know winter will come again. And when it does, the road will vanish, the ridges will close, the village will turn inward, and the island will rise once more from snow.